There is a common problem when people are doing go-to-market initiatives or trying to find leads. They usually look where everyone else is looking for leads. Basically, the very common practice is going to Apollo, scraping leads in Apollo, perhaps sending emails via Instantly. The more sophisticated people might be using automation on LinkedIn. The even more sophisticated people might be doing automation and outreach based on signals. So what I've been doing for very long is automating outreach in email and LinkedIn whenever people post job posts on LinkedIn or in their job boards. In LinkedIn, I use different scraping capabilities, and in job boards of the company, I use predict leads. But what I wanted to build here, and I'm going to share this build story or case study with you, is an automated Upwork lead machine. Basically, Upwork, for those of you who don't know, is a marketplace that consists of many service providers and clients. Now, in opposing to other platforms such as LinkedIn job post or Glassdoor or whatever, many of these clients are looking for a very fast solution, and they are very hot quote-unquote leads. So some of them are very high-spend clients, so this is very valuable. So the thing is with Upwork that it's very crowded with many service providers, so it's pretty hard to stand out. Now, this whole idea was born basically when I looked for someone to help me with cold email outreach, and after posting a job post on Upwork, a few minutes afterwards, someone sent me a message on my WhatsApp, my personal WhatsApp, and kind of proposed his services. So initially I wasn't sure whether or not this is like too much, because I didn't expect someone to approach me on my personal WhatsApp number. But afterwards I realized, okay, this is exactly what I was expecting. I was expecting someone to be able to find the lead fast and stand out from the crowd. And I realized his whole pipeline was basically finding relevant Upwork job posts manually, then trying to find the person who posted the Upwork post, then going to his LinkedIn, and then from LinkedIn you can enrich the profile in Apollo, for example, or other platforms, and you can find the phone number. And once you have the phone number, you can just reach out on WhatsApp. So I wanted to automate this. Now, a few problems. So, as I said already, Upwork is very crowded. Another problem is the fact that the name of the poster doesn't always appear. Upwork does invest a lot of effort, so you stay on the Upwork platform. But if you're a good go-to-market engineer, you want to stand out, you want to find the prospect outside of the platform. So, because by the time you find the people on Upwork, you're part of the crowd. And if you manually start looking for the person, it might take a lot of time, and you might not be able to enrich the person. And if you are able to enrich and find the LinkedIn information, it might be already too late. So this is why I decided to basically automate this process. So I asked myself, what if an AI checked Upwork every night, found the client name, located their LinkedIn, basically did the enrichment, and drafted a personalized pitch. So this is what I built. 5 stages. One crawl job that ran every night at 1 a.m. First of all, we start out with Playwright. This is important. All the stages, or after I thought about this a lot, and there is a certain point in time in which you need to use different tools. And this is a good example of when I'm using Playwright and when I'm using Bright Data to scrape. So first of all, in the first stage, basically I gave the automation a list of Upwork URLs related to my target audience. So for example, people that are looking for an automation expert, people that are looking for creative automation provider, stuff like this. So a list of URLs, and every night the Playwright script or the Playwright automation using an MCP was launched. And basically it was an OpenCode instance, headless OpenCode instance that was connected to Playwright via MCP, and it went to each one of these URLs in Upwork. It opened up each URL, scraped the recent job post, only the URLs, and created a file of all the URLs that were recent of the job posts that were recently posted. Then the next stage was the job investigator. Again, after random ways, of course, Playwright would visit each job post, expand all the reviews, and look for client names. Now, this is an important part because you don't always have the client name in the job post, but very often the freelancers that worked with the job poster provide a feedback, and they do mention his name. So for example, someone can say Dave was an awesome client, he told me exactly how to adjust his website, and then they might mention the website, for example. So suddenly, after you mind all the reviews, you have the name of the job poster, you might have the URL of the website, and you also have information regarding his location, because in the Upwork profile you can see if he's located in Minnesota, Chicago, London, or Dubai, whatever. So now you have 3 data points about the job poster. You have his name, you might have his website, and you might have where he's coming from. So the automation or the agent took this information, added this to a CSV, and afterwards it would start another stage, which is the LinkedIn enrichment using Bright Data. Now over here we are using Bright Data because first of all it is way faster than Playwright, and it's more scalable, and it's the right tool for the job because we're basically looking for search engine results page in Google using the information about the client. So basically, you know, when you do site linkedin.com IN, and then you write CMO and Tel Aviv, for example, it will find you all the CMOs in Tel Aviv. So this is basically what we wanted to emulate using the SERP API that Bright Data is providing. After Bright Data found the prospect based on the 3 data points, his name, perhaps his website, and his location, it would the agent, again using the LLM, would kind of state how confident it is based on the information. So give me a confidence score. If it was about above 80%, I realized, okay, this is a prospect. Then we would update the Python script and we would generate an outreach. So this is like kind of the pipeline in a high level. This is over here. I'm going to go slightly into more detail. So different first stage, the URL scanner. So we scan 20 different search URLs. Playwright scrolls the result, extracts the job IDs and the client badges. We skip different job posts. So for example, clients that spend less than 1K, we found that it is less likely to be able to find reviews with their name, so we just skip those. And obviously we also don't want to serve them as clients because probably if they haven't spent a lot of money on the platform. And we would set a boundary. Basically the URL scanner would stop whenever we got to the job IDs that we already had in the database. Then the job investigator open another OpenCode session, one OpenCode session per job. So we typically did between 50 to 70 jobs per night. Playwright would visit the job page and expand the review section between 3 to 5 times. And then it mines the review for first name, companies, domains, etc., etc., as I told you. And then Bright Data would look for the prospect and also give us a confidence score, high, medium, low, or none. And then it will draft a 2 to 4 sentence speech based on the information. And then it will kind of do like all the back office stuff, so do the merging and reporting, etc., etc. Now, the output was, as an example, we find 69 new jobs from clients that spend already more than $4 million US dollars on Upwork. From that, we found 28 LinkedIn profiles. So the enrichment is almost 50%, let's say 40%. And every night we would run this automatically. Now, obviously, we also got the drafted pitch. And in terms of the infrastructure, we had kind of four files that used to run everything. Now, one mistake that I did that cost me a lot of money is I really wanted to use the most capable model for this. The thing is that each iteration took almost 7 hours, and it was a ton of tokens because I used Opus, and then I also switched to GPT 5.4. And I remember that my billing cycle in OpenAI started like on the 4th of April, and 2 days afterwards, I already exhausted all the credits, and I was shocked, and I didn't understand how come. Because, as I told you, this was automated with a cron job every night, so it wasn't visible to me that we were consuming a ton of tokens. But then when I thought about it, I realized, oh shit, I'm using this automation, and this automation might be very tokens heavy. And this was actually the issue when I kind of dissected and tried to understand what's going on. So I adjusted the usage of models. I moved to using Haiku when possible and Sonnet when possible. And I also kind of made sure that the job post that we are targeting is more accurate, and I tightened the criteria of job post and the job and the parameters of the job posters that we are trying to enrich. So this reduced the cost, significantly. Not saying that this isn't. I'm not saying that this necessarily makes sense, because very often these leads are worth a ton of money, and it might make sense on certain stages in your pipeline to still use the most capable models. I even tried messing around with some Chinese models, but this didn't yield good results, especially when I tried connecting this to the Playwright agent. For some reason, I felt that the results that Claude models were yielding in terms of instructing the Playwright MCP were better. So I don't recommend using the Chinese models, although some of them are really, really cheap. But obviously it's context dependent. So these are like the costs, never mind. I discussed the fact that it was the wrong model for the job. And I told you about the lessons. So first of all, obviously set daily spend caps, never schedule Opus for bulk repetitive tasks. And I think that's pretty much it. In terms of the automation, so this automation took some creativity, a lot of back and forth in terms of when should I use Playwright, when should I use Bright Data, when should I use Unipile, which I decided not to use eventually. Which steps should I automate, when to have a human in the loop, when to have a human on the loop. But I'm pretty satisfied overall about this whole thing. Obviously, I connected it to a different automation that I have that cleans up the emails, verifies them versus Apollo, cleans them up with Rion, send the campaign via instantly. So everything is wired using different agents. But this is for another for a different video. I think the main takeaway here is to really think about what you can automate and which tools to use for each stage. As soon as you automate this, you can use a cron job with OpenCode, or I use OpenCode like a headless OpenCode session every night, which is very valuable, and I think many people don't use. So that was cool. And all in all, I think eventually, when you automate meaningful stuff, which are hard to automate, because you think outside the box and be creative, plus you know which are the most valuable tools that you can use in each step in the pipeline, you can get a real edge. And this is the reason that I wanted to share this video with you guys, because if you implement a similar automation, I believe that it will help you in finding valuable leads. Unfortunately, I'm not going to share the code at the moment, because this is something that I'm also providing as service. But I gave you the gist, and I think it would be pretty easy to reverse engineer if you would like. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, keep on automating.